Hey everyone, I'm doing the second part of the journey, Awakened. The last time we talked, I talked about the awakening, and so here we go. When we think about conscious awakened, we want to think about the earth and how the earth works. Because when we think about the conscious mind, it works the exact same way. If we were to pull apart the earth, and look at her core, there is a light center. Some people call it the light source, the God particle, the God source, the womb, the heart. I like to call it the light source, a switch. Um, this switch can be turned on within the earth, inside the earth. She turns herself on. When we look at the human brain, and if we were to split that brain in half, we also have a light source or a God particle called the pineal gland. And that too is a switch because that can be turned on and turned off. When we look at the surface of the planet, the surface is just consciousness, not really the conscious mind, because when you talk about the conscious mind, you talk about subconsciousness. So when we figure out what the awakening is, we have to look at the earth for those answers because she is constantly shifting. And when she's shifting, that switch that she has inside of her, that core, that ball that she has inside of her, turns on and she is lighting up. That happens to the same way as our brain has that pineal gland or the third eye that people talk about. When we decide to become an awakened mind, we also have to think about the earth and how we shift and how she shifts determines how far our evolution of our growth. When we do become an awakened mind, a universal mind with the planet, we have two roads. We're led to a path that's called a crossroad. The crossroad is one road where you take that quantum leap and you take this journey. And then there is another road where you can stay where you are and determine your own fate, which is self-destruction. If you choose to take that quantum leap um, into the unknown, that's when the real journey begins, really. Um, that's where your mind becomes very much aware, still a bit of fogginess to it, cloudiness, but aware um, and a bit more understanding that what you thought you believed you knew about yourself before and how you lived your life before no longer exists if you choose the path of self-discovery. Everything that you once believed in, everything that you believed about yourself to be, no longer it no longer holds up because while we are on the surface, of this planet, in the surface of our minds, we are only seeing what we want to see, and we are only being shown what we need to be shown, not the full glass and not even half of the glass of water. But when you choose to go on your journey, you choose to see the whole glass. And the journey, when you decide and you understand that nothing of who you thought you were or who you believed you were to be or to become over in the past, it doesn't matter. Because the choice that you made was a choice to resolve any unsolved issues and to resolve any unresolved thoughts and emotions and to work through it. That's part of the journey. When you first start of the awakened process, you have to learn tools. You have to gain tools. These tools take you half the way of your journey. These tools is to learn more about your heart, because when you're on this journey, you're no longer part of just a physical world. Now you're stepping into a spirit world, and the spirit world plays by different rules than they do here. And you have to learn how to walk in both worlds, because we are of both worlds, physical and the spirit world. And when you think of yourself as a human, which is physical, and a being has a spirit, we are both. We can't deny ourselves that intelligence. So when you go on to your awakened journey, you need tools to get you so far. These tools are learning about yourself. For example, your chakras, learning about your chakras. What are they? How do they work? How to heal, because healing is a life journey. That is another long journey, another road for, and you have to learn and understand how your energy works and how it affects your everyday life, how it affects the people around you, how it affects the choices that you make, and how it affects your inner worlds. When you are on your awakened path, you becoming more connected to your inner world, which is your subconsciousness, your spirit world. And when I say that they play by different rules, the spirit world is much more alive than it is in the physical world. The physical world is dead, as we can see, but the spirit world is very much alive. And they are more aware of us than we are of them. And just because you can't see them doesn't mean that they're not all around us, because they are. They are the most important part of this evolution on this planet, more so than us. And they have a role to play with human beings here. And so when you choose the path of awakened and becoming universally minded, you learn about the tools that you're going to need to use. You need to learn how your mind works and how energy flows through your mind and how it affects. It's like the butterfly. And the butterfly always knows which way to go from birth because it's genetic memory. And within our genetic memory, we know how our mind works. We just need to turn on the switch a bit more and maybe turn up the tune a bit more. When we think about our chakras is seven. The seven elements of the planet, of the earth. The earth is seven elements, not five. It's seven. On a good day, when she's all healed up, she'll be 12. But right now it's seven. And we need to learn how to recognize that in ourselves and how to maintain balance, because that's our spirit source. It's how we function, and it's how the earth functions. Um, we also, the tools, we have to learn how to hear better, talk less, and listen more. When you are on an awakened path, you still have a lot of questions, but you very rarely now would go outside of your inner world to gain these answers to the questions that you want. Because like I told you before, if you look outside for the answers, you're not going to get it because no one is going to tell you the truth. The only truth that exists is within yourself, within your heart. Your heart knows what is true, and nothing outside of yourself does. That's the illusion. When you start going through your journey, it's like your mind is playing a film of, could be maybe your past lives, what you've done, what you didn't do. It's like a movie. It's like going to the movies when you sit down and you're watching a film. That's part of, you know, going through the awakened stage. And it's a long time before you graduate from one stage and get on to the next stage, because you do have a graduation time where you are put into situations to experience certain things in order to help you um, help you to understand yourself better. And the path, the awakened conscious is not a unified front. It is more of a individual journey. Um, it's something that it doesn't matter if you're with your friends or with your husband or boyfriend or whomever, your children. It still is an individual journey, and not everyone can come with you, because a road to self-discovery has nothing to do with anybody else that is outside of your world. It has everything to do with you. And so when we talk about the collective consciousness, we're not there quite yet, because this journey is very, very long. And the only collective consciousness that really does exist is our connection and rebuilding our relationship with this planet. That's when our collective consciousness will come back. But until then, we have much more challenges ahead of us before we can even reach and say, now we're in solidarity. Now the human beings, the human race is unified. We can't have true unification as an awakened people until we understand ourselves and how we are connected and how we establish our relations with all of our families. Um, it's a long process. I see most people say, oh, now that I'm awakened, look at this and look at that, and I'm above this person. And that's not how it works, because there is an awakening time, there is a purification time, and then there is the healing time. The healing time is a long road because we have to be able to heal ourselves in all worlds that live within us, and to be able to heal this planet in all the worlds that live within her. Um, you know, you have to always constantly evolve. Being conscious, awakened, is constantly evolving. And when you are finished one path and you have learned all that you have to learn from that path, and you make as many mistakes on that path as you go along and you learn, you get to graduate on to a different path, and with different experiences. One thing that people are afraid of, there's a few things that people are afraid of, and that's death, being alone, and change. People are not really adapted to change. Change scares people because they do not understand themselves. Um, there is no good change or bad change. Change is change, is evolution. And we can determine how to change if we took time to get to know ourselves and rebuild a relationship with ourselves. Because while you're on the awakened path, it's all about building a relationship with yourself. It's all about building a relationship with your path that is chosen, and that the road that you chose to take. And people outside of your journey doesn't really fit into your journey. When you start going through it, you will understand that what I say, that um, not everyone can come because it's not their journey. Journey is not really meant to be shared. It's something that is very, very sacred. Um, and it's very, very personal and intimate. It's not meant to be shared because you haven't not got the knowledge and the wisdom yet to share it. That's something that has to be learned. And when you are on your journey, you know, there's a lot of restrictions, because when you are in a journey, you are in the spirit world. You're learning about your being. You're learning about your light source. You're learning about your physical being, your physical body, and how it functions, because your body, as much as it looks this vessel, as much as it's physical, it's also a spirit. It also holds intelligence. And as we move along and create and manifest and learn and understand ourselves, the more that we evolve higher. We want to go higher. There's no turning back. There, you know, there's no bridge behind you, because each, when you look in the movies and you see these people running along the bridge and the bridge starts breaking apart, it's called dissolving. It means everything from the start of the bridge, and everybody's running around, trying to get across it before they fall off the bridge. Well, that's something that what the journey is. That is the journey. That's what it is. Because when you cross that bridge and that bridge starts to dissolve itself, it starts to break apart, there's nothing going back. There's nothing there anymore. Everything that you believed in, who you once were, it could be people left behind. Most cases it is, and everything is gone. It's, that's something too that people are afraid of, is letting go of their attachments. Because you see, when you're on the awakened path, you have to learn how to not to get attached, and you have to learn to let go. Each path is different. A path of awakening could be very, very negative. People think about, say, well, negative and positive. Negative is not good. Negative is very good. People should learn what it is. Negative is very good. That's what teaches you. Karma, they say karma is a bitch, but she has good intentions on teaching you. It's how you learn. It's how we learn. Each path is different. Every experience is different. Not one path is the same than the other. And so we may have a good path. A person could be going on a great path, and it's filled with knowledge, and it's filled with light and energy and vibration and frequency, and you feel like you're in bliss. The thing is, the path will change because you're constantly shifting. The earth has to shake all of her energies out of her. All of it. Right? And so we vibrate the same way. And so when one path looks really great and you feel calm and at peace, this is a great time for you to learn as much as you can, and take what you learn with you onto the next path. I had a great experience with one path, and I loved this path that I was on before, years ago. And this path was so great. And when I woke up one day, and boom, it was gone. That left me emotionally disillusioned. Like, it's great trauma, because I got so attached to that path that when it changes, it's like the greatest shock of your life. You think waking up is a shock. Try getting attached to a path that is just beautiful, and then it switched to something that is just totally insane. So I myself had to learn not to get attached, but to take all the importance of what I've learned on that great path, and not to forget when I moved on to another path, to a different journey of the awakened process. And so that's something that everyone, it doesn't matter what, if people believe how evolved they're not, because they're not evolved to the point where they're just not human anymore. It's because the people will evolve along at the same time with the earth at her speed. We're not faster than the earth. Okay? So everyone has to go through this journey at some point, because how are you going to evolve? everybody has to go on their own journeys and experience different things, different experiences, because it's how we learn. It's how we learn how to become who we were born to be, and what we have always been, human beings. But along the way, we've lost our being, our essence. We lost our essence. Our essence was stolen. And now we're just people, I say, who are you? People say, well, I'm this, I'm that, I'm human. It's really when people tell me that they're just human. I know that person is very, very confused, very, very lost, because we're not just human, right? We are a human being. And when you remember who you are, a human being, that awakened path becomes totally different, because you can no longer deny yourself who you are, and you can no longer deny your essence. You have to learn how to embrace all of yourself. You see, going through the journey, you have to learn how to embrace all of your aspects, your good and your bad. Because one thing that all human beings are here on this planet is dreamers. It's how we create, it's how we manifest, it's how we live our daily lives, is because we're dreamers. It's our imagination. So when we look at all the bad stuff, all the negative experience a person may have or had to go through or is having to go through, you have to look within yourself, because that's what the awakened is. It's yourself. And when you have to come to some kind of, I know, an agreement with yourself, because while you were asleep, okay, while your subconscious mind was asleep, your conscious mind is running out there causing havoc. And that is a reality. Everybody has a part to play. Everybody is a part of self-destruction and the destruction and the wars. Everybody. It's not putting blame, but it's putting responsibility. Because the more that we point our fingers, we are yet again separating ourselves from the truth. See, when you go further into your journey, you don't have that option to run, because you can't run backwards. There's no side rails for you to go off of except to fall. The only place that you can run to is straight ahead and face yourself. That's what people today are really, really afraid of, is facing themselves. Because if you face yourself, you have no choice but to face the truth. And when it's it's a hard pill to swallow. For example, my experience going through this journey and having to face myself, I'm gonna tell you, I had a lot of skeletons in the closet, and I won't say that I'm not, the lightest person on the planet. I'm still not today. As I am light, I am dark too, and as I am honest, I'm very conniving. And as creative I can be, I am also destructive. That's who we are. That's who everybody is learning how to accept yourself and come into an agreement with yourself, kind of have to negotiate with the dark side of yourself, because your dark side of yourself is also light. There's nothing dark about it. It's just mischievous. You know, it's just a brat running around doing whatever they think they can do. That's all that it is. The spoiled brat. People call it ego, whatever they want to label it as. The yin and the yang. It's a spoiled brat. And so when I had to face myself, it was the hardest thing I had to do in my life. And it is going to be the hardest thing that you are going to have to do in your entire life. Because you have no choice but to face the truth about yourself and what the world you've created. I too have a part to play with the chaos and with the wars. And for me to sit back and say, well, no, I didn't, I'm denying myself again. I would be lying to myself. And therefore, if I deny that part, that truth, then the illusion out there, the predator energies out there, will say, here's a person that has self-doubt about who she is. Let's use that to our advantage. See, that's the key, is when you are on your journey, you have to learn that you can't have self-doubt. There is no room. There's room for failure, because I'm not afraid to fail, because I always get back up. But there is no room for self-doubt. When you reach a certain point of your evolution, and when you reach a certain point in your consciousness level, you cannot afford to make that kind of mistake again. Because this is ownership. You have to own your own shit. You have to take responsibility for everything you do. And that is what the journey, when you reach that certain point, you can't sit around and feel pity or feel sympathy for yourself. You have to get back up and you have to try it again. If plan A doesn't work, plan B usually does. And so facing yourself is the ultimate challenge. And if you can face yourself and you have to negotiate. And I know that sounds really ridiculous, but considering what our consciousness mind has been doing for the last, couple of centuries, you kind of have to and the consciousness mind, the surface mind, has been the one in control of your subconsciousness and allowing these predator energies to do this as well. You kind of have to negotiate with yourself. And the negotiation is to come back to the source. Your entire being, to come back to your source, to the source of all life, the source of consciousness, to the God particle. And when you do that, when you can fully embrace who you are as a conscious, awakened human being, then the outside world looks very different. When I say different, I mean how you see things is extremely vivid. You see past all the garbage. You can't be fooled. You can't be manipulated. Because you are hell-bent with your inner world. When you have full connections of your inner world, and that is the only part of this awakening process is understanding that the spirit world does exist. If it didn't exist, we would not be here at all. It'll just we wouldn't exist without it. We can't exist without it. Okay? And to fully understand that we are of the spirit world, and the more we understand that and how it works, the more you're going to understand that to be a sovereign person, different than freedom or freedom, different terminology. Freedom is given, sovereignty is earned. You have to earn that, because you have to have restrictions. When you become more and more consciously awakened, you understand the restrictions that the universe allows you to have, because it is the natural law. There is a natural order to things on this planet, and there is a natural order of the universe. It is the natural law of this planet that you can't just do what you want when you want. You just can't think what you want to think because it affects. You have to be mindful. You just can't cut down any kind of tree just because it's there, and you can't just hunt everything that lives here and think that you can get away with it without having any kind of consequences to pay for. Okay? You have restrictions when you become an awakened person, awakened human being. It comes with so much restrictions that right now humanity does not understand what is really going on, and that these kind of restrictions are being forced upon human beings, because this is how the law of the earth is. We go by her laws. You just can't do these things and think there is no consequences to our actions. And we can't just run around and say what we want to say and express the way we want to, whatever we want to express at any given time, because that's not how the earth works. She works a different way. She functions in a different way, and that's balance. You gain your knowledge, you gain your wisdom, and you pass it on. You gain understanding. You take care of her, she takes care of you. You take care of your neighbor, and your neighbor will take care of you. But you just can't, and being awakened and going through your journey, you're going to find out how restricted you are from everything. The restrictions of your freedom. People believe right now that they have their freedoms restricted. That's because they are allowing the predator energy to restrict them. But true sovereignty does have restrictions, and these restrictions allows you to be free. Once upon a time, people couldn't just go to other people's countries because we carry bacteria on our bodies that can kill other people in a different country. You can't just go to the Amazon and think you can go into an uncontacted area with uncontacted people and think that you're not going to murder everybody just because you're standing still. You have bacteria. See, that's how diseases are spread, right? So when you become awakened, you will know this because it is common sense. The first step to awakened Consciousness is common sense. It's intelligence. You just know that you don't do these things. And so it's challenging. You have to learn how to live your life within these kind of restrictions. It's how we live. It's how we're supposed to live. If because there is a natural order. And I'm not saying the new world order, because that's, but there is a natural law. There is a natural order, law of order, in which the universe works. That's why it's called the universal law. It's what the planet is built upon, that natural order. You are born, you live, you experience, you share your knowledge, your wisdom, you live your life according to those universal laws. And when the Great Spirit decides for you to come home, then you go home. That's the natural law, So that's the journey. The journey, to you reunite with yourself. There's nothing more peaceful than knowing that you have an ally within yourself. People often ask me, well, why would you want to, embrace the dark side of yourself? I ask them, why not? It's who I am. I mean, if I get in trouble, I could count on my dark side to get me out. It's an agreement. I embrace myself. I have lots of questions. It's like, well, it's not good to embrace that kind of side. I said, well, why not? Why am I going to deny myself? That's the problem here. People are so scared of themselves that they're so separated, and when they yell solidarity, they don't even know what they're talking about. So it comes down to knowing yourself. Know thyself. And that's what my article means. Know thyself. Know who you are and embrace it and be in love with it, because that's who we are. A lot of people have a perception of, the earth is light and all this stuff, but the earth is also a dark place. She too is of dark energy too. Okay? When she causes disasters, that's pretty negative stuff, but it's also positive. She's light too, right? As much as people denounce this journey as being both dark and light, because that's what it is. It is about yourself. It is how you're going to reconnect, and it's how you are going to reestablish the relationship you once had a long time ago before it was invaded. That's when all your memories will come back. That's when your genetic memory, and that's when your power comes back. Because as much as we love to get rid of the negativity, that is not possible. Because how would we learn? We want everything to be so positive and so lovey-dovey that nothing goes wrong, and nothing is going to change from that. Then we would stop evolving. When there's positive, there's negative. That's balance. It's learning how to balance those energies. It's learning how to come to an agreement with yourself. It's learning how to embrace yourself, because it's who we really are. And deep down, deep down, you also know it too. Everybody knows it. We talk about Um, through the awakening, I learned a few things. Well, I learned a lot of things, but the few things I did learn was there's nothing wrong with us. There's absolutely nothing wrong with us because we are beautiful. Another thing I learned is it's more of questions, really. It's we've got to be some kick ass people for the predator energies to be so damn afraid of us. Seriously. They are so scared to death of us that they are trying to do everything possible to annihilate us. You see, when you on this awakened path, you see things in a whole new different way. And when you start thinking this whole new different way, a lot of things become clear, okay? Because what we were always told was, history goes back to 6,000 years, the human history. And the human mind is only 5% and the 95% is junk. And so therefore there's nothing more to learn. There's nothing else to learn. Everything that has ever happened in history and in our lives and our DNA makeup, that's it. There's nothing else to learn. But if there's nothing else to learn, why are they so afraid of us? Of finding out what is the big secret? People talk about, this awakening journey, this awakening, the disclosure, this awakened disclosure. I have a little bit of problems with that because I think there's a lot of people out there and that are manipulating, seducing people by thinking the disclosure is something in the skies. But I'm going to tell you that that's not a secret because all of our ancestors know, all of their ancestors know, and all of their ancestors know. It's not a secret that this planet has been visited. It's not a secret that this planet has been always visited and still continues to be visited by other people, by other beings. Within her and from up there, it's not a secret. So I fail to see the disclosure on that because as long as the earth has existed, beings have always came and gone off this planet just like human beings have came and left the planet. Okay, it's not a secret. I think that the big secret that they're so deathly afraid of is us. There's something about us that makes them go insane. Because how else would you explain the mass genocides that's happening all over the world? It can't be. It doesn't make sense that as we are in the awakened process, because how I see it, the awakening is come to pass. It's now you are either awake or you're not. And so now we are in an awakening state, going through the awakening state of this journey. And as we become more aware and our minds are becoming more intuitive, and our eyes, all of our eyes and ears and our hearts become more intuitive, you'll be able to see these things as they really are, because there's no secret about the UFOs or other people coming off and on this planet. That's always been here. It's always been here before mankind ever existed, before we were even thought of. So I fail to see the disclosure in that because you don't see any other indigenous people worrying about it, do you? I didn't think so. The disclosure, I believe, is us and who we are. And the further that we go on to this, the further we evolve, and it's important that we keep evolving no matter what that predator energy tries to throw at us. We have to move past that energy and keep moving forward and keep evolving, because the more that we evolve, the more that the truth reveals itself. It unveils itself. It's showing us. It's showing us right now who we are. Some people are not really aware, or maybe they're not realizing what's right in front of them, but it's right there. We just have to snap ourselves out of it and turn that switch on full blast to see what it is that they are so afraid of us. Why? You know, it's a good question. It's a question I think that everybody should be asking, instead of concentrating all of their essence, all of their precious energy, and all of their awakened moment on what is going on with the illusion. Because at the end of the day, we're only complying, distracting us, distracting other people, instead of focusing on what the real problem is and what the real answers are. I don't know what the solutions are. The only kind of solution I could think of is stop believing in everything that people tell you to believe about yourself, about your history, about what's going on. Start thinking for yourself. Start respecting your intelligence. Because at the end of this, that's the real power. People believe that guns and money and all this, they got bombs and stuff, and that's power. No, that's their power. That's the illusion. What we have and what they don't have is totally completely thing. We have the greatest weapon. We have a nuclear bomb in ourselves. We are the nuclear bombs if we just stopped giving our energies away and stop using our precious awakened time, all of our awakened time, on such crap. Because that's what it is. That's what they want you to do. They look for any cracks to throw another, what you want to call it, rise up. Everything has been started by them. It's reaction. When we react, we stop ourselves from evolving. We stop ourselves from waking up completely. It doesn't take that much to wake up if we focus on what is right and what is real. What is real is that we should be focusing all of our energies onto this planet. That's where our focus needs to be, because she is dying, and so are we. We are a dying race, because this planet can no longer sustain what has been done to her. And we have a huge problem. And so this awakened journey could come to a quick end before it even really gets started and see something really beautiful. So that's something for you guys to think about as well. Again, it's a long journey. There's, you graduate, there's processes to this journey. You have the awakening process, you have many different kinds of journeys to go through. And even when you think that you've finished a journey, another one will begin. That's the natural order. When one journey ends, another one begins. When one journey ends, another one begins. And that's what you want. That's balance. That's the flow. I say be like water. Okay? So you have to be like water, and don't ride against the waves, because if you do, she's going to crush you. Just go with the flow. Go with the waves. Let the waves carry you to your next destination. And don't be afraid to let go. And don't be afraid not to have any attachments, because we can't attach ourselves to anything, right? And that's the most beautiful thing, really. Just going with the flow of things and let go. Let go. There's nothing here that we want. What is it that we want here? You know, money, cars, what's that going to do us in the next 5 years? This machine here isn't even going to work in the next 5 years because this planet won't sustain it. It's not her technology. Okay, there's something that was created by something else that's not of her origins. So let it go. Let all of it go and just see where it takes you. Because, I call it, as much like that, I like to call it the journey. I like to call it the great adventure. Because life is nothing but an adventure. And when you have all of your senses with you, it becomes nothing more than the greatest adventure on earth. It's the greatest show on earth. You will see, when you become more enlightened and more peaceful inside, and you're not warring, you can no longer war with yourself when you start embracing yourself and you start accepting who you are, and you fall in love with yourself. You're married to yourself. Okay? Some days that marriage is good, some days you want to divorce yourself, but that's human nature. Okay? So when you become one with yourself, you become like a tree. And that's part of the journey. Become like a tree. And you start planting your roots into the earth. And as that root takes place and it spreads, and that tree becomes strong, there is no storm and no hurricane or tsunamis that can break or bend that tree, because you're strong now. You can stand on your own 2 feet without having somebody tell you what to believe, because that won't fly with you anymore, because now you have your own mind. And that's what the awakening is about. Having your own mind and learning how to implement it in a healthy, balanced, responsible way. We have to take responsibility, and that flows with the earth, and that heals the earth, and then that heals everybody else. That frequency goes so far as the eye can see, and it goes as fast as lightning if we just put our focus on what the reality is, what is real. Until then, folks, we'll have to continue on this ride. So that's all I'm going to do for today. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, again, you can, my blog, part of the journey is open for questions, and whatever questions are asked, I will answer them. I'll write them down, as I usually do, and I will answer your questions the next time I do a video. I'm also thinking about doing a live broadcast, but I'm not too sure about that right now. It's in the thought mode. Haven't made any formal decisions about that yet, but it could be a possibility sometime down the road. So take care. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you want to check out my website, my blog site, it's risingplanet2025.blogspot.com. And if you'd like to have send your questions through my emails, that's fine. Again, it's risingplanet2025@gmail.com, and you can contact me there through Facebook, Sarah Brown, with the E at the end, BROWNE at the end, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. Until then, see you next time. Love and light. Bye.